My name is Alex, I'm 32, and for the last 2 years I've lived completely alone in a small cabin about 40 miles outside of Bend, Oregon. No neighbors, no cell service, just a gravel road that disappears into the pines. I bought the place cash after I burned out from my tech job in Seattle. I wanted silence. Real silence. The kind most people never get to hear. The cabin is old, built in the 70s, with wood panel walls and a stone fireplace that smells like smoke even in summer. My days are simple: wake up at 6, make coffee on the propane stove, feed the stove wood, work on my freelance coding contracts until noon, then hike or chop firewood until the sun drops behind the ridge. At night I read by lantern light and go to bed early. That's it. No TV, no internet most days, just the forest and me. People always ask if it gets lonely. Honestly, the first winter was perfect. The snow muffled everything. You could hear your own heartbeat. I loved it. But something started feeling off. Not scary yet, just off. The first thing I noticed was the way the birds stopped singing around 4 p.m. every single day. Not gradually, just gone. 1 minute chickadees are yelling at each other, the next it's dead quiet, like someone hit mute on the woods. I timed it for a week. 3:58 p.m. to 4:02 p.m. Every day. Then they'd start again like nothing happened. Then there was the silence itself. Real deep forest silence is never totally empty, there's always wind, a branch creaking, a squirrel cursing somewhere. But sometimes, usually late afternoon, the air would feel thick, like someone stuffed cotton in my ears. I'd step outside and the forest looked normal, but no sound reached me. Not even my own footsteps on the porch boards. It only lasted 10, maybe 20 seconds, but it left me dizzy. I told myself it was altitude or cabin fever. Nothing more. There were small looks, too. Not people, animals. The deer here are used to me. They'll walk right up to the salt lick I put out. But every few days I'd catch one staring at the cabin instead of at me. Not grazing, not flicking an ear, just locked on the windows with that wet black stare. Once I waved. It didn't blink. It just kept staring until I went back inside. When I looked again, it was gone. I started leaving the radio on at night, just for the murmur of voices. NPR out of Bend barely comes in, it's all static and fragments. Sometimes a word or two gets through clear as glass: remain indoors, or, do not approach the, then back to hiss. I figured atmospheric skip, whatever. Still, I kept the volume low so it felt like company. The weirdest thing, though, the one that actually made my stomach drop the first time, happened about 3 weeks ago. It was a Thursday. I'd spent the day splitting firewood and my shoulders were screaming. Dusk was coming early because of cloud cover. I stacked the last armload on the porch, wiped sweat off my face, and glanced toward the tree line like I always do, just habit, checking for bears or whatever. That's when I saw the footprint. Right there in the soft dirt beside the chopping stump. Barefoot. Adult-sized, deep, like someone stood there a long time. The toes were long, spaced a little too wide, and the print was fresh, edges still sharp, no wind blur yet. I know every track around here: my boots, deer, raccoon, the occasional cougar. This wasn't any of those. I crouched down. The print pointed straight at the cabin's front door. Not toward the woods, not toward the trail, at the door. Like whoever made it had been watching me swing the axe for hours. I looked up fast, heart already going. Nothing. Just trees and that thick gray sky. I grabbed my rifle from inside, came back out, and followed the print. One single footprint. No others leading to it, none leading away. It just started there, 5 feet from my stump, aimed at my house like an arrow. I stood there a long time, wind picking up, cold sneaking down my neck. Then I did the only thing I could think of: I dragged the chopping stump over the print and covered it up. Like if I hid it, it never happened. That night I locked the door for the first time since I moved in. I never lock the door. There's no one out here to lock out. I sat up until the lantern burned low, listening to that strange cotton silence pressing against the windows. And right before I finally blew the light out, I heard it, soft, almost lost under the crackle of the fireplace, a single breath. Not mine. It came from the other side of the front door. Just one slow exhale, like someone standing on my porch had been holding their breath all day, and finally let it go. I didn't sleep. Tomorrow I'll tell you what happened the next morning when I opened that door. If you want to hear the rest, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Part 2 drops tomorrow night. Stay safe out there, especially if you live alone. The next morning I opened the door with the rifle in my hands. Nothing. No breath, no footprints, no person. Just the chopping stump sitting exactly where I left it, a light dusting of snow on top. I even dragged the stump away. The barefoot print underneath was gone. Not smudged, not filled in by wind, gone, like the dirt had swallowed it overnight. I told myself I imagined the whole thing. Lack of sleep, cabin fever, whatever. I went about my day. That was the first lie I told myself. There were many more. The staring got worse. Every single afternoon now, between 3 and 4, at least one deer would stand at the edge of the clearing. Always the same spot, right where the trail comes out of the pines. It never moved, never grazed. Just stared at the cabin with that glassy black stare until the birds went silent at 3:58. Then it would turn and vanish into the trees exactly when the sound came back. Every day. I started calling her Doe, because it felt like the same one. Left ear had a notch in it. One afternoon I got angry. I walked straight toward her with the rifle across my chest, yelling like an idiot. She didn't flinch. When I was maybe 20 yards away, she finally moved, turned her head slow, like a person does when they're making sure you see them do it, and walked deeper into the forest. I followed for maybe 5 minutes. Then I realized I couldn't hear my own footsteps anymore. That cotton silence again. I turned around fast and jogged home. When I broke back into the clearing, Doe was already standing in her spot again, watching the cabin. I swear she was waiting for me to come back. The messages started a week later. I have a landline for emergencies, old rotary phone wired into the wall. No cell service, remember? It almost never rings. When it did, I thought it was my mom. She's the only one who has the number. I picked up. Nothing but open air. Then breathing. Slow, calm breathing, like someone standing outside in the cold. I said hello 3 times. The breathing stopped. Click. Line dead. It rang again the next night at 2:13 a.m. Same thing. Breathing. I left it off the hook after that. Then the writing showed up. I came back from chopping wood one afternoon and found words scratched into the frost on my kitchen window. From the inside. The window was closed and locked. The letters were shaky, like done with a fingernail. Alex is home, I live alone. Nobody has been inside my cabin for 2 years. I took a picture, then wiped it away fast, heart hammering. I called my friend Jake in Bend on the satellite phone I keep for work emergencies. Told him everything. He laughed at first, then got quiet. Said I needed to come stay with him for a while. I told him I couldn't, I had contracts, deadlines, plus 40 inches of snow on the road. He said, "Bro, frost doesn't write itself." I laughed it off. Told him I probably did it in my sleep. Total lie. 2 days later I found the second message. This time on the bathroom mirror, written in the steam after my shower, "Alex is still home." I hadn't told anyone about the first one except Jake. That night the footsteps started. I was reading by lantern when the stove popped loud. Everything went quiet. Then, crunch, 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 slow footsteps in the snow, circling the cabin. I grabbed the rifle, turned the lantern down to almost nothing, and waited. The steps went all the way around, past the bedroom window, past the back door, past the kitchen, past the front. Stopped right in front of the porch. I could see the shadow of boots through the gap under the door. Big boots. I raised the rifle. The shadow just stood there. 10 minutes. 20. My arms started shaking. Then the doorknob turned, slow, testing. Locked. A soft thud, like someone leaned their forehead against the wood. And the breathing again, right through the door, same as that first night. I yelled, "I have a gun." My voice cracked like a kid's. The breathing stopped. Footsteps walked away, slow, into the trees. I didn't sleep. At dawn I went outside with the rifle. One set of boot prints came from the forest, circled the cabin exactly once, and went straight back the same way. Deep prints. Heavy person. But here's the thing, in the whole circle, the prints never got closer than 4 feet from the walls, except at the front door. Right there, the left boot print was pressed hard, toe almost touching the threshold, like the person had stood on one foot and leaned all their weight forward against my door. Later that week I drove into town for supplies, first time in a month. Told the cashier, old guy named Ray, that I thought someone was messing with me. He looked at me funny and said, "Son, ain't nobody been up your road since October. Tracks would show." I laughed it off again. People in town already think I'm the weird city kid playing mountain man. Back home that night, I found the worst one yet. I parked my truck, grabbed the groceries, and walked to the porch. Something felt wrong right away. The porch light I leave on a timer was off. Bulb was smashed. Tiny pieces of glass glittered in the snow. And there, on the front door, at eye level, someone had dragged a single wet finger through the frost and written, "We know you're alone now." The finger had kept going after the words, down the wood, leaving a long wet streak that ended in a perfect handprint. Palm flat against my door. The print was huge, fingers thick, way longer than mine. I stood there with grocery bags in my arms, staring at that handprint, and for the first time I felt it, real fear, cold and sharp in my gut. Whatever this is, it's not just watching anymore. It's touching my house. Part 3, the night it came inside, word count, 9:01, it was December 18th, 3 days after the handprint on my door. The temperature dropped to -12. The forest was frozen solid, every branch crackling when the wind moved it. I hadn't slept more than an hour at a time in days. My eyes were raw, my hands shook when I tried to pour coffee, and every small sound made me jump like a rabbit. That night the power went out at 11:47 p.m. Not unusual, ice on the lines. I lit the kerosene lantern, banked the fire, and sat on the couch with the rifle across my lap, staring at the front door like it was a bomb. The silence was absolute. No wind, no animals, nothing. Just my own pulse in my ears. Then the birds stopped at 3:58 p.m. again, but this time the silence never left. It stayed. Hours of it. Thick, heavy, wrong. At 2:13 a.m. exactly, same time as the phone calls, the doorknob turned. Slow. Testing. I saw it move a quarter inch, then stop. The lock held. I didn't breathe. A soft scrape along the outside wall. Fingernails. Slow, like someone was dragging one hand all the way around the cabin, feeling the logs. Scrape, pause, scrape. It went past the bedroom window, past the back door, past the kitchen. Every time it passed a window the lantern flame shrank, like the air was being sucked out of the room. I stood up, legs shaking so bad the rifle barrel rattled against my knee. My heart was slamming so hard I could taste metal. I backed toward the hallway that leads to the bedroom, never taking my eyes off the front door. The scraping stopped at the kitchen window. I heard breathing. Not through the door this time, right on the glass. Slow inhale, slow exhale. The window fogged in a perfect circle. Then a single finger appeared in the fog and drew a line straight down. Another finger. Another. 5 long streaks running through the frost, making wet squeaking sounds that went straight into my spine. I raised the rifle. The breathing stopped. Everything went dead still for maybe 10 seconds. I thought it left. Then the loudest sound I've ever heard in my life, bang. The entire cabin shook. Something huge hit the front door so hard the hinges screamed and the deadbolt cracked the frame. Dust fell from the ceiling. I screamed, couldn't help it. Another hit, bang. Wood splintered. The door bowed inward. One more and it was coming through. I turned and ran for the bedroom. I have a back window that opens onto the porch roof, my only escape plan. I slammed the bedroom door behind me, shoved the dresser against it with shaking arms. My breath was coming in these horrible little gasps. I could hear my own heartbeat like a drum. From the living room, slow, heavy footsteps. 1, 2, 3, straight across the floorboards toward the bedroom. The steps were wet, like boots full of snow melting. Each one made the floor creak under weight that had to be over 250 pounds. I yanked the bedroom window open. -12 air hit my face like a slap. I threw the rifle out first, then climbed after it. My hands were so cold they stuck to the metal sill. Behind me the bedroom door cracked, one hard kick and the dresser jumped 6 inches. I rolled onto the porch roof, grabbed the rifle, and slid down into the snow on my stomach. The impact knocked the air out of me. I looked up at the open window just in time to see it. A shape filled the bedroom window. Tall, way too tall for a normal person. Head almost touching the top of the frame. No face I could see, just black, like it was wearing the darkness itself. It leaned forward slowly, bending at the waist, until its head came out into the moonlight. I saw the eyes then. Not reflections, not glow. Just 2 wet black holes, empty, staring straight down at me. I scrambled backward on my hands and knees, gasping, tears freezing on my cheeks. The thing put one hand on the sill. The fingers were wrong, too long, knuckles bending the wrong way. It started climbing out after me, slow and patient, like it had all night. I turned and ran. I ran barefoot through the snow, pajama pants soaking instantly, lungs burning from the cold. I didn't look back until I reached the tree line. When I did, the cabin was dark except for the open bedroom window. The shape was gone. No footprints in the snow leading away from the house. Nothing. I kept running anyway. I ran until my feet were bleeding and I couldn't feel my legs. I made it to the old logging road and followed it for 6 miles in the dark until I reached the highway. A trucker picked me up at dawn. He said I looked like a corpse that learned how to walk. I never went back for my truck, my clothes, my rifle. Nothing. The cabin is still sitting there with its front door kicked in and the bedroom window open to the snow. But here's the part that keeps me awake in the motel room I've been hiding in for 2 weeks. When the trucker asked where I came from, I told him the address. He went pale. Said that cabin's been empty since 1978, when the guy who owned it vanished in the middle of winter. Search parties found the door smashed in, bedroom window open, one set of huge barefoot prints leading away into the woods, and never coming back. So tell me. If no one's lived there for 47 years. Who, or what, has been learning my name? They didn't believe me. Not really. The state trooper who took the report kept using words like hypothermia, delusion, and break-in by persons unknown. They went up to the cabin 2 days later. Found the door smashed, dresser shoved across the bedroom, my bloody footprints leading away into the snow. No rifle, no truck keys, no ID. They said it looked like I'd lost it and destroyed my own place. The barefoot print story from 1978? The old file was incomplete. They acted like I made it up. My boss fired me over Zoom. Said missing 3 deadlines without warning was unacceptable, even after I told him I'd been running for my life. My mom cried on the phone and begged me to come home to Ohio. I did, for 3 weeks. Slept on her couch with every light in the house on. I flinch when the furnace kicks in. I flinch when a car slows down outside. I flinch when someone says my name. I'm different now. Completely. I rent a second-floor apartment in a city of 300,000 people. Steel door, 3 deadbolts, security bar, camera doorbell, motion lights in every room. I never take the stairs alone. I check the lock 6, 7 times before bed. I haven't been in the woods, any woods, since that night. Even city parks at noon make my chest tight. When I have to drive past trees after dark, I grip the wheel so hard my knuckles crack. I thought distance would fix it. I thought people and noise and concrete would keep it away. I was wrong. 3 nights ago I got a new phone. New number. Only 4 people have it, my mom, my sister, the new job I started last month, and the therapist I see twice a week. Last night at 2:13 a.m. exactly, it rang. Private caller. I stared at the screen until voicemail picked up. 37 seconds of silence, then 1 slow breath in, 1 slow breath out. Click. I played it back on speaker, volume all the way up. In the background, so quiet you could miss it, I heard wind in pine trees and the soft pop of a wood stove settling. This morning I found something tucked under the windshield wiper of my car. I park in a locked garage under my building. Cameras everywhere. You have to badge in. It was a single Polaroid picture. The photo shows the inside of my old cabin, taken from the living room corner, aimed at the couch where I used to sit with the rifle. The angle is low, like the camera was on the floor. The couch is empty. On the exact date stamped in red at the bottom, December 18, 2025. That was 2 weeks ago, when I was still living 800 miles away. In the foreground of the picture, taking up half the frame, is a bare human foot. Pale, filthy, toes too long. It's pointed straight at the couch, like someone knelt down to place the camera, then stepped into the shot on purpose so I'd know they were there. I called the police again. They're looking into it. They think it's a prank. They don't understand that no one else knows about that night, that date, that cabin, that foot. I can't sleep anymore. I sit up with the lights on, staring at my own front door, waiting for the doorknob to turn again. Because here's what I realized today, what keeps the scream stuck in my throat every time I try to breathe: that thing, whatever it is, didn't chase me when I ran. It didn't need to. It already knew exactly where I was going. So I have to ask you. If it can find me here, 800 miles away, in a locked apartment on the 14th floor. What's stopping it from standing outside your door right now, listening to me tell you this story, waiting for you to be completely alone again?